Gary Caradori was a Nebraska investigator who found out who was flying children to Washington, D.C. to be raped by politicians. Then someone brought his plane down. Gary was 41. His son Andrew was 8 years old. Andrew went to his father's house for a visit and never came home. The plane came apart in midair over a cornfield in Lee County, Illinois, on July 11, 1990. Days before he died, Gary told colleagues he had evidence that would blow the case wide open. Whatever he found died with him and his little boy in that cornfield. This is not a rumor. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a documented fact in public court records that a major publishing house turned into a book. The book is called The Franklin Cover-Up by John DeCamp. DeCamp was a decorated Vietnam veteran and a 16-year Nebraska state senator. He documented everything. The book is still in print. You can buy it on Amazon right now. The people who murdered Gary Caradori and his 8-year-old son are still walking around. They were never charged. They were never questioned publicly. The investigation that Gary was running was buried so completely that most Americans have never heard of it, even though a British film crew made a documentary about it that was listed in TV Guide magazine before congressmen paid to have it destroyed. This is what your government does when one of its investigators gets too close to the right people. This is what it did in 1990. This is what it did to Jeffrey Epstein in 2019. Same operation, different decade, same result. Lawrence King was a Republican operative in Omaha, Nebraska. He ran the Franklin Federal Credit Union. He sang the national anthem at the 1988 Republican National Convention. Boys Town, the famous Catholic orphanage, the one with the movie, the one with the donations, the one where children had no parents to call if they went missing. King used Boys Town and Nebraska's foster care system as his supply. Children who were wards of the state, children with no family, children nobody would notice were gone. He put them on private jets and flew them to Washington, D.C., to Chicago, to Las Vegas, to Toronto. Politicians, businessmen, government officials, wealthy donors. He was also running a nationwide child trafficking ring out of Boys Town. These men paid to abuse those children, and King documented everything because that was the point. The sex was the mechanism. The blackmail was the product. One of Gary Caradori's witnesses, a young man named Paul Bonacci, testified that King sent limousines to Offutt Air Force Base, the headquarters of U.S. Strategic Command, to pick up CIA officers for these parties. Say that again slowly. CIA officers, from the facility that commands America's nuclear arsenal, being driven in limousines to child sex parties organized by a Republican operative. That testimony never made it to open trial. They made sure of that. What happened to the people who told the truth? After Gary's plane came apart in that cornfield, the witnesses started falling apart with it. The FBI visited them. The FBI reminded them that making false statements to federal investigators is a crime. The FBI reminded them that grand jury testimony is secret, and revealing it is a federal offense. One by one, witnesses who had given testimony on camera started saying they made it up. Her name was Alicia Owen. She had given investigators specific names of specific men who had abused her. She gave those names again when they asked her to recant. She gave them again in court. She gave them from a prison cell where she was sent after being convicted of perjury. 9 years. They sent a trafficking victim to prison for 9 years for telling the truth. On the same day, Owen was convicted. All charges against Paul Bonacci, the witness who had testified about CIA officers being driven to child sex parties from a nuclear command facility, were quietly dropped. They could not risk Bonacci testifying at trial, so they convicted the woman and released the man. One of them had testimony that protected powerful people. One of them had testimony that would destroy them. The math is not complicated. The men Owen named were never charged. They never sat in a courtroom. They never answered a single question under oath. Some of them are still alive. Some of them have been in public life continuously since 1990. None of them have ever been held accountable for a single thing. The documentary that died on May 3, 1994. A film crew from Yorkshire Television in Britain came to Omaha in 1993. They spent months there. They interviewed victims on camera. They obtained grand jury documents. Director Tim Tate later wrote that they discovered the machinations of a vast operation functioning throughout the country, providing children to the wealthy and the political establishment for molestation, drug trafficking, and blackmail.
Hello out there in internet land. I'm Lily, the editor at The Wise Wolf, and I just wanted to steal a moment of your time to urge you to subscribe to our god-awful channel. Otherwise, my professor is going to press charges for breaking into his office to shoot this clip. Thanks. Bye now.
Unnamed congressman threatened the cable television industry with restrictive legislation if it ran. The rights to the documentary were purchased by people whose names have never been made public. Every copy was ordered destroyed. A rough cut survived because someone mailed it anonymously to John DeCamp. That copy has been uploaded to YouTube, taken down, uploaded by someone else, taken down again, for 30 years. They listed it in TV Guide. Normal people saw it in the listing section of their newspaper. Normal people expected to watch it Tuesday night. Then it was gone. Nobody explained why. The Discovery Channel said nothing. Yorkshire Television said nothing. The congressmen who killed it were never named publicly. This is what the murder of a story looks like. Not a dramatic suppression. Just it was there, and then it was not. And nobody said anything. And most people forgot about it within a week because it was 1994 and there was no internet to keep it alive. There is an internet now. The documentary is on YouTube. Watch it before the next takedown. Search Conspiracy of Silence, 1994. This is the same operation as Epstein. The same one. Private planes flying victims to powerful men. Check. Children sourced from institutions with no family protection. Check. Powerful clients documented for blackmail purposes. Check. Federal law enforcement protecting the operation rather than prosecuting it. Check. The central figure killed or removed before full disclosure. Check. Witnesses intimidated, prosecuted, or silenced. Check. The documentary evidence managed and suppressed by the people whose names are in it. Alex Acosta signed that agreement. He later became Trump's Secretary of Labor. He told colleagues Epstein belonged to intelligence before signing. He signed anyway. The agreement was unprecedented. Legal scholars said so. Federal prosecutors do not grant immunity to unnamed co-conspirators. It had never been done before. It was done for Epstein. Then Epstein was arrested again in 2019. Then he was put in federal custody. Then both cameras in his cell malfunctioned. Then his guard fell asleep. Then a man who knew the names of every powerful person who had visited his island and every child who had been there with them was either murdered in his cell or walked out of it. And the FBI and DOJ concluded it was suicide and closed the file. The same FBI that threatened Alicia Owen in 1990, the same DOJ that wrote the 2008 immunity agreement. They investigated themselves and found nothing wrong. Shocking. The files are being managed by the people in the files. Congressman Jamie Raskin personally viewed the unredacted Epstein files in February 2026 and told Axios that Trump's name appears more than 1 million times. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie viewed the same files and reported that 6 names were being actively redacted by Trump's own DOJ that were likely incriminated. Trump promised to release all of this on day 1. Congress had to pass a 427-1 vote to force his administration to release anything. His DOJ released 3.5 million documents with no organization, no index, critical sections redacted, and a DOJ official caught on tape by Project Veritas saying they were redacting every Republican or conservative person in those files, leaving all the liberal Democratic people. They made a documentary. They titled it Conspiracy of Silence. It was listed in TV Guide magazine for broadcast on the Discovery Channel on May 3, 1994. The people managing the files are the people in the files. This has been true since Gary Caradori's plane came apart in that cornfield. The personnel change, the operation does not. They killed a father and his 8-year-old son in 1990. They sent a rape victim to prison for 9 years for telling the truth. They paid to destroy a documentary that was listed in TV Guide. They wrote Jeffrey Epstein an immunity agreement that protected every powerful person who had ever touched one of his victims. They put him in federal custody, where both cameras malfunctioned and his guard fell asleep. They are now managing the release of files, documenting all of it, from inside the administration of a man whose name appears in those files more than 1 million times. This is what they do. This is what they have always done. And they will keep doing it for as long as the people watching this video are willing to argue about drag shows while the people responsible for Andrew Caradori's death continue to walk around free. Help keep the wise wolf howling.